Sophia was a kind and beautiful florist who lived in a small town surrounded by rolling hills and lush green forests. She had long, curly brown hair and sparkling green eyes that shone like emeralds in the sunlight. Her smile was warm and inviting, and her laughter was contagious, making everyone around her feel at ease. Sophia's love for flowers was evident in the way she tenderly cared for each bloom, coaxing them to grow and flourish in her quaint flower shop. She spent her days arranging bouquets and creating beautiful displays, her fingers moving deftly as she worked. Her passion for her craft was clear, and her customers adored her for it. Despite her many talents, Sophia was humble and kind, always willing to lend a helping hand or offer a listening ear. She was a beloved member of the community, and her flower shop was a gathering place for friends and neighbors. As she worked, Sophia's mind would often wander to her dreams of adventure and travel, of exploring the world beyond her small town. But for now, she was content with her simple life, surrounded by the beauty of nature and the love of her community. One day, while Sophia was out on a walk, she stumbled upon a handsome stranger who was sitting on a bench, staring out at the view. He was tall and lean, with piercing blue eyes and a strong jawline that made Sophia's heart skip a beat. His dark hair was messy and unkempt, and his clothes were worn and faded, but there was something about him that drew Sophia in. As she approached, the stranger looked up and caught her eye, flashing a charming smile that made Sophia feel like she had been punched in the gut. She felt a flutter in her chest and her cheeks grew hot as she quickly looked away, trying to compose herself. But as she walked by, the stranger called out to her, "Hey, wait up. Can I talk to you for a minute?" Sophia hesitated for a moment, but then turned back to face him. "Sure," she said, trying to sound casual despite her racing heart. The stranger stood up and walked towards her, his eyes locked on hers. "I'm Alexander," he said, holding out his hand. Sophia took it, feeling a spark of electricity as their palms touched. "I'm Sophia," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Alexander smiled again, and Sophia felt like she was melting into his eyes. "It's nice to meet you, Sophia," he said, his voice low and smooth. As they talked, Sophia learned that Alexander was a traveler, a wanderer who had been on the move for years. He had been to countless countries and had seen and experienced things that Sophia could only dream of. But despite his tough exterior, there was something vulnerable about him, something that made Sophia want to reach out and touch his hand again. As the sun began to set, Alexander stood up and said, "I should probably get going. But it was great talking to you, Sophia. Maybe I'll see you around sometime." Sophia nodded, feeling a pang of disappointment that their conversation was ending. "Yeah, maybe," she said, smiling up at him. As Alexander walked away, Sophia couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement and wonder. She had a feeling that her life was about to change in ways she couldn't even imagine. The second time Sophia and Alexander met was a few days later, at the local coffee shop. Sophia was sitting at a small table, sipping on a latte and reading a book. Alexander walked in and scanned the room, his eyes locking onto Sophia's. He smiled and walked over to her table. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, nodding towards the empty chair across from her. Sophia shook her head, feeling a flutter in her chest. "Not at all," she said, smiling up at him. They talked for hours, discussing everything from their favorite books to their childhood memories. Sophia felt like she had known Alexander her whole life, and yet, there was still so much she wanted to learn about him. The third time they met was a week later, at the local park. Sophia was walking her dog, Max, when Alexander appeared out of nowhere, his own dog, Luna, by his side. "Hey," he said, grinning at Sophia. "Fancy running into you here." Sophia laughed and scratched Max behind the ears. "I guess it's not that surprising, considering we both love dogs." As they walked their dogs together, Sophia and Alexander talked some more, sharing stories and laughter. Sophia felt like she was falling for Alexander, hard. But she was scared to admit it to herself, let alone to him. As the days turned into weeks, Sophia and Alexander grew closer and closer. They would meet up every day, either at the coffee shop or the park, and talk for hours. Sophia felt like she had found a kindred spirit in Alexander, someone who understood her in a way that no one else ever had. One day, as they were walking their dogs, Alexander turned to Sophia and said, "I have to tell you something. I've been wanting to tell you for weeks now." Sophia's heart skipped a beat as she looked up at him. "What is it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Alexander took a deep breath and said, "I think I might be falling in love with you, Sophia." Sophia's heart soared as she looked up at Alexander. "I'm falling in love with you too," she said, her voice trembling with emotions. As they spent more time together, Sophia and Alexander realized that their connection went beyond just physical attraction. They shared a deep emotional bond, one that seemed to transcend time and space. For Sophia, it was Alexander's kind and compassionate nature that drew her in. He had a way of listening to her that made her feel heard and understood, like he was seeing into her very soul. And his sense of adventure and spontaneity was infectious, making her feel alive and carefree. For Alexander, it was Sophia's intelligence and creativity that captivated him. Her passion for art and music was inspiring, and her quirky sense of humor made him laugh like no one else ever had. And her empathy and understanding towards others was remarkable, making him feel seen and supported. As they explored each other's interests and passions, they discovered that they shared a love for nature, music, and art. They spent hours exploring the countryside, attending concerts, and visiting museums. But beyond these surface-level connections, Sophia and Alexander felt a deeper sense of familiarity with each other. It was as if they had known each other before, in some past life or dream. "I feel like I've known you my whole life," Sophia said to Alexander one day, as they sat on a hill overlooking the town. "I know exactly what you mean," Alexander replied, taking her hand in his. "It's like we're two pieces of a puzzle that finally fit together." As they looked into each other's eyes, Sophia and Alexander knew that their connection was something special. It was a once-in-a-lifetime chance at true love, and they were determined to make the most of it. As times passed, Alexander finally mustered up his courage to tell Sophia about his past. A past which haunted him. But he wanted her to know everything about him. So one day he told her everything about his past and his dark secrets. Alexander's past was marked by tragedy and loss. He had grown up in a broken home, with a father who was abusive and a mother who was distant. He had always felt like he was on his own, like he had to fend for himself from a young age. As he got older, Alexander's troubles only deepened. He struggled with addiction and depression, and he often found himself in dangerous situations. He had been to rehab multiple times, but he had never been able to shake off the feeling of emptiness inside. One day, Alexander hit rock bottom. He had lost his job, his apartment, and his girlfriend had left him. He was alone and adrift, with no direction or purpose. It was then that he met a mysterious figure, a woman who claimed to have the power to help him. She was beautiful and alluring, but there was something dark and sinister about her too. Alexander was drawn to her, despite his reservations. He felt like she was the only one who understood him, like she was the only one who could help him. But as he got to know her better, Alexander realized that she was not what she seemed. She was a demon, a malevolent being who was using him for her own purposes. Alexander was horrified. He tried to escape, but the demon had a hold on him. She had manipulated him, using his own weaknesses against him. For years, Alexander was trapped in a living nightmare. He was forced to do the demon's bidding, committing terrible acts and hurting people he loved. But eventually, Alexander found the strength to break free. He realized that he had the power to resist the demon's control, and he began to fight back. It was a long and difficult journey, but Alexander finally emerged victorious. He had defeated the demon and freed himself from her grasp. But the experience had left its mark. Alexander was haunted by the memories of what he had done, and he struggled to forgive himself. It was then that he met Sophia, a beautiful and kind-hearted woman who saw the good in him. Alexander was drawn to her, but he was afraid to get close. He was afraid of hurting her, of tainting her with his own darkness. But Sophia was different. She saw the pain in Alexander's eyes, and she wanted to help him. She asked him to open up to her, to tell her about his past. Alexander was hesitant at first, but Sophia's kindness and compassion put him at ease. He began to tell her about his troubled past, about the demon and the terrible things he had done. Sophia listened with tears in her eyes, her heart breaking for the pain Alexander had endured. But she also saw the strength and resilience in him, the courage it had taken to overcome his demons. As Alexander revealed his past to Sophia, he felt a weight lift off his shoulders. He felt like he could finally breathe again, like he had been given a second chance. And Sophia, she felt a deep connection to Alexander, a sense of understanding and empathy. She knew that he was not defined by his past, that he was so much more than his mistakes. As Alexander finishes his story, Sophia's eyes are brimming with tears. She takes a step closer to him, her hands reaching out to comfort him. "Alexander, I'm so sorry," she says, her voice trembling with emotion. "I can't imagine what you've been through." Alexander's eyes well up with tears as he looks at Sophia. He feels a sense of relief wash over him, knowing that he's finally shared his secret with someone he trusts. "It's okay, Sophia," he says, his voice cracking with emotion. "I'm just glad I can finally talk about it." Sophia takes Alexander's hand in hers, her touch warm and comforting. "You're not alone, Alexander," she says. "I'm here for you. I love you." Alexander's eyes lock onto Sophia's, his heart overflowing with gratitude. "I love you too, Sophia," he says, his voice filled with emotion. As they embrace, the darkness that has haunted Alexander for so long begins to recede. He feels a sense of peace wash over him, knowing that he's finally found someone who accepts him for who he is. The room is filled with a warm, golden light, as if the sun has burst through the clouds. Alexander feels a sense of hope and renewal, knowing that he can finally start anew. Sophia pulls back from the embrace, her eyes shining with tears. "We'll face whatever comes next together," she says, her voice filled with determination. Alexander nods, feeling a sense of strength and courage that he's never felt before. "Together," he repeats, his voice filled with conviction. After the emotional revelation, Sophia and Alexander decided to take a walk in the nearby park to process their feelings. The fresh air and peaceful surroundings helped to calm their nerves and clear their minds. As they strolled hand in hand, Sophia turned to Alexander and asked, "What's next? How can we move forward from here?" Alexander thought for a moment before responding, "I want to continue therapy to work through my issues. And I want to spend more time with you, getting to know you better and building our relationship." Sophia smiled and nodded in agreement. "I'd like that," she said. "And I think we should also focus on building a support system for you, so you don't have to face your demons alone." Alexander nodded, feeling a sense of gratitude towards Sophia. "Thank you for being here for me," he said. "I don't know what I would do without you." Sophia squeezed his hand. "You'll never have to find out," she said. "I'm here for you, always." As they walked, they came across a beautiful lake. They sat down on a bench and watched the sunset, enjoying the peacefulness of the moment. After a while, Alexander turned to Sophia and said, "I have an idea. Let's start a new tradition. Every time we face a challenge or overcome a difficult moment, we'll come back to this lake and celebrate." Sophia loved the idea. "I'd like that," she said. "It'll be a reminder of our strength and resilience." And so, they sealed their commitment to each other and to their new tradition with a kiss, as the sun dipped below the horizon. From that day on, Sophia and Alexander continued to work on their relationship, facing challenges and celebrating victories together. They knew that their love was strong enough to overcome any obstacle, and they were grateful for every moment they spent together. As the days turned into weeks, Sophia and Alexander's relationship continued to blossom. They spent every spare moment together, exploring the town and getting to know each other better. One day, Alexander took Sophia to a beautiful botanical garden on the outskirts of town. They walked hand in hand, admiring the vibrant flowers and lush greenery. As they strolled, Alexander told Sophia about his passion for photography. He showed her his camera and explained how he loved capturing the beauty of the world through his lens. Sophia was fascinated by Alexander's creativity and enthusiasm. She encouraged him to pursue his passion and offered to help him with his photography business. Alexander was touched by Sophia's support and encouragement. He realized that he had found a true partner in her, someone who believed in him and his dreams. As they left the garden, Alexander turned to Sophia and said, "I have a special request. Will you be my model for a photo shoot?" Sophia was taken aback but happily agreed. "I'd love to," she said. The photo shoot was a success, and Alexander's photographs of Sophia were stunning. They captured her beauty and grace, and Alexander was thrilled with the results. As they reviewed the photos together, Sophia turned to Alexander and said, "You have a true talent. I'm so proud of you." Alexander smiled and hugged Sophia. "Thank you for believing in me," he said. "I couldn't have done it without you." Their relationship continued to flourish, and they knew that they were meant to be together. They were each other's rock, supporting and encouraging each other every step of the way. Years went by, and Alexander's photography business took off. He became a renowned photographer, and his photos were featured in galleries and exhibitions around the world. Sophia was his muse and biggest supporter, always encouraging him to pursue his dreams. And Alexander never forgot the love and support she had shown him, always grateful for her presence in his life. As the years passed, Sophia and Alexander's love continued to grow. They traveled the world together, exploring new places and experiencing different cultures. Alexander's photography business flourished, and Sophia's floristry business also took off. She opened her own shop, where she created beautiful arrangements and bouquets that were sought after by people all over town. Alexander was always happy to help Sophia with her business, and he loved photographing her stunning creations. Together, they made a great team, and their businesses complemented each other perfectly. One day, Alexander took Sophia to a beautiful beachside resort, where he had planned a surprise proposal. He led her to a secluded spot overlooking the ocean, got down on one knee, and asked her to be his wife. Sophia was overwhelmed with emotion as she said yes. They hugged and kissed, and Alexander placed the ring on her finger. Their wedding was a beautiful celebration of their love, surrounded by friends and family. Sophia's floristry skills were on full display, as she created stunning arrangements and bouquets for the ceremony and reception. Alexander's photography skills were also showcased, as he captured every special moment of their big day. After the honeymoon, they settled into a cozy home, where Alexander continued to work on his photography and Sophia continued to run her floristry business. They collaborated on projects, with Sophia creating beautiful arrangements for Alexander's photography shoots, and they built a life together that was filled with love, laughter, and adventure. Years went by, and their love continued to grow stronger. They faced challenges and overcame them together, always finding a way to come out stronger on the other side. One day, Sophia gave birth to a beautiful baby boy, whom they named Leo. Alexander was overjoyed, holding his son in his arms and feeling a sense of pride and happiness he had never known before. As they raised Max together, Sophia and